Well, welcome everyone. I'm Coach Nancy. I'm here with Coach Kate, and we have two of our HMR program members with us tonight. We have Robin and we have Brian. And tonight we're going to be discussing how to increase your physical activity. What we like to say, how to get your minutes up. And whether you're brand new to physical activity and you haven't even started yet, or you're somebody that can't even imagine a day without getting some physical activity in, this event will be for you. Because you know what? There's always a next step. So welcome. We're excited to have you.
Great. We already have people joining us, and I would say we have the perfect guests for this evening. So wanted to again welcome Brian and Robin. And I know, Brian, you will be sharing with us how you struggled before you joined HMR with your movement. And now you can do almost anything related to physical activity. And Robin, this is a neat story. Coach Annika, who's your current coach, announced to her group that Robin was going to be on Facebook Live. Someone joked, she's going to tell everyone how to get in 10,000 calories of physical activity burned in 1 week. So
I think she has a reputation in that class, don't you?
She certainly does. So this is going to be a great event.
Yeah, so we're really excited about having both of you join, and welcome to everybody that's joining us from the field. We've got some of our regulars. Hey, Marcia from Wisconsin, but we also have David, we have Bob. So please say hi when you join us. Appreciate that. All right. So we're gonna start by hearing from Robin and Brian about their stories. And we're going to specifically or mostly talk about their physical activity. But for those of you watching, we want you to also be commenting. So here's what we'd like you to do. We'd like you to think about what your physical activity was like before HMR. Now, I think all of us, there's not a person alive that doesn't know that physical activity is healthy. It's an important thing to do, but it's also very hard to do. It's very challenging in this environment. So tell us about your hard, those of you in the community. Paint a picture for us about what made or makes physical activity hard. All right. So meanwhile, Robin, so Kate, maybe you can share.
Yes, absolutely.
So Robin, you're in your weight loss journey right now.
I am.
And you are the proud loser of 39 pounds so far, which is fabulous. Notice, Robin, really just love to get some comments from people. You know, Robin, when I see this and I see you on the right, I think I'm happy. I've got confidence. I can do anything. I just love that picture.
Oh, thank you. That was my Wonder Woman pose.
Yeah, it's perfect. That's exactly, I got that strong. So any other comments, please, let's acknowledge Robin and all that she's accomplished and still working to accomplish. So let's get into your story, Robin. And again, I think when we had our conversation last week, you told a story about your experiences at the airport. And I think that's a very telling story. Do you mind sharing that with people?
No, I don't mind sharing at all, actually. And thank you so much, Coach Nancy. So in 2020, I had to fly to New York, which is where I'm originally from. I live in California currently. And when we flew into JFK, I was actually, I took the flight and I was sitting in first class. So I only say that to say that I was one of the first people off the plane. And when we got off the plane, I started to go up this tri-level ramp that they have at the airport. So the jetway pulls up to this tri-level ramp and you go up the ramp and then into the concourse. And I can distinctly remember how hard it was for me to get up that ramp. I mean, like really hard to get up the ramp. I had to stop. I wasn't clutching my chest or anything, but I had to stop and rest before I could continue on. I had to stop 3 times. And I remember when I finally got to the top of the ramp, like the last couple of people that were on this big body plane were, coming up the ramp. And I just remember how horrible I felt in that moment, like just recognizing like what just happened here? Why couldn't you get up the ramp? And then I got into the concourse and I started walking. And in fairness, it was a long walk. It was about a 15-minute walk to baggage claim. But I had always been the kind of person who just kind of, no big deal. I'm going to do it. I'm managing it. And this time people were lapping me. And I mean, like, I felt like I was standing still. And there were a couple of times when I literally felt like I had to stop and take a seat. I did not stop and take a seat, but I felt like I needed to. And I remember how horrible that felt. And then when I finally got to baggage claim, just like, having like an internal come to Jesus with myself, like, what's happening here and you need to acknowledge what's happening here. And, on my trip to New York, I tried to do some exercise and I felt better. I felt better when I was exercising in New York, right? And then I went back home and you kind of fall back into your old habits again, like with the COVID and the meetings and ordering food from outside and I'm not exercising and all this stuff is happening. And I think it got worse again. And then I just started to feel really bad and I couldn't do short walks when I tried to do short walks at work. And so finally, I went in to see the doctor. And what changed for me was the doctor gave me a diagnosis of diabetes. And it's hard for me to say that today. I'm trying to say it more and more and more. So, because the more I say it, the more I acknowledge that truth for myself, the more I can stay focused on my plan, because that right there is my why. Because I heard that and I was like, And she goes, no, really, Robin, you're diabetic. And I was like, yeah, I heard you, but So she says, what are you going to do to take care of it? I said, I'm going to lose this weight and I'm going to start exercising. And she said, okay. She said, diet and exercise will do it. And I have been on a mission ever since.
So we're going to get a lot of, it's such a powerful story and I'm sure people can relate to it. I can just picture you at the airport, like having to stop, really struggling, getting up the ramp and like having that corridor just seem like miles, like the entire across the United States, how it could feel. But then let's fast forward to going to that same airport recently, right?
Yes, a year later, quite literally a year later for the holidays again. And now I've been on HMR for 3 months and I was exercising. I immediately felt better and was exercising and getting outside and, taking walking meetings and feeling so good. So same scenario, sitting in the front of the plane, but this time when I got off, I was the first person into the concourse and like I never lost my energy. I just kept going. That the feeling of elation, I can't even begin to describe to you how I was never so happy to be able to move. I was so happy. And I'm flying past all these donut shops and places that smell amazing, still smells amazing, but I had no want or anything. I just felt so good that I was able to move. I mean, do you hear the excitement? I was so
I'm all I can think of is Rocky moment, like, climbing the stairs. It's like a Rocky moment. So
yes, that's exactly how I felt. I felt like jumping up and down when I got to baggage claim. And I was like the first person there, which normally is very annoying to me because now I know I have to wait a long time for the baggage. I was all like, yes. I kept walking around the carousel because I had energy and I could do it.
That's such, I love this story. And it just, it's interesting. First of all, you had mentioned that at one time you were an exerciser. So that first event in the airport sort of took you by surprise because you hadn't realized that you had sort of gotten out of shape.
Yes.
So, but it's just an example of how hard it is today and how easy it is with the environment. And then of course, COVID was a major impact for people, how easy it is to get out of shape, if you will, and not exercise and, frankly, not even realize it. So I love that story. So as we're, just one more thing. So clearly that incident, the first time in the airport, was one of the reasons that had you join HMR.
Yes.
Were there any other things you were experiencing that just kind of clinched it? Like, I got to do this. I've got to join HMR. Anything else?
Oh,
that you were
yes.
experiencing?
Yes. Difficulty fitting into seats. I
Hmm.
can remember having difficulty fitting into seats, and I'm like, okay, this is not okay. And like I didn't, that hadn't been my reality before. And now I was realizing that I would walk into a room and I was scanning the room for certain seats, certain types of seats.
Mhm.
And when that became a reality to me, I'm like, okay, like, that it's happening, like, you need to do something about this. The other thing that was starting to happen was sleep. I was not sleeping well anymore.
Oh.
So it's like I couldn't get into a comfortable position that would allow me to get a restorative night of sleep.
Mm.
So yeah, that
And we
too.
know how that impacts everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And it was I was getting brain fog, I was fatigued, you're always tired. It was just this cascade of things that started to happen that immediately started to reverse when I started to lose the weight and exercise.
Well, I'm
Amazing.
glad you joined HMR. This is awesome. I love this story, and we're going to hear more as we go on here.
Absolutely. So for those of us just joining, we're so thrilled to have you. And we had a chance to hear a little bit about Robin, your incredible transformation. And of course, stay tuned because you are going to be sharing a lot of tips around physical activity. Now we want to have an opportunity to hear from you, Brian. I'm going to open some photos, Nancy.
Okay, good.
All righty.
All right, so audience, look at this. Brian has lost 103 pounds. So kudos, Brian. And, one thing that's really exciting, I mean, you lost 70 pounds in phase 1, transitioned to phase 2, and have lost 33 more, and are keeping all of that off. So just look at this, guys. Your face is so much smaller. And again, there's just that sense of pride. Like, I did this. I love it. So please comment on Brian.
Brian,
now
you look
108
happier
pounds.
too in your after photo.
Thank
So
Wait, Brian, what were we gonna say?
Oh, I said it's now 108 pounds.
We're okay. We got to fix that. 108.
Flash,
Yep, as of
Wow.
yesterday.
Just amazing.
congratulations.
That is great.
So Brian, tell us a little bit about what you were experiencing when you joined HMR. Tell us a little bit about your physical activity at the time, quality of life.
My physical activity, I would say, was non-existent. My quality of life was really bad. Like Robin said, looking for a place to sit. I had coworkers. We'd have to go to meetings. They would have a chair already for me because they knew that I couldn't sit in normal chairs. And going out to eat with my wife or anything, it would be, oh, do you think we could sit at a table or avoid the booth completely?
Oh yeah.
And honestly, if I were to go anywhere now, I could sit anywhere and not even have the size chair touch me, which is an amazing.
That feels really good, doesn't it?
It does. And but to get down to it, the most aggravating thing of my weight at that time, because I didn't work out at all, would be I would record my kids doing stuff, and I go to watch the video, and all you can hear is my labored breathing. Hearing your labored breathing was not only embarrassing, it was crippling. It was like the number one pin of your depression when it comes to losing weight.
Wow.
Yeah, I can, that must have been so confronting when that
Mhm.
would happen. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're going to talk a lot about physical activity strategies in our session, but I'd love for you to share, Brian, how you got started with physical activity.
I had a very energetic coach. The very first day I got there, I'd say there was probably 20 people in my class, and I was the last person to be addressed. And I thought, I'm not really overweight. I'm okay, but I'm going to do something. And she was giving out everybody their fitness assignment. And she looks at me and goes, Brian, just walk for 20 minutes a day, 3 times this week. I'm like, and I took offense, like, you don't think I could do it every day? And that was a positive trigger for me because I did that, and I wanted to prove to her and myself that what you gave me was a start, but I really didn't think I was going to be able to, like, I was offended. And then when I did my first 20 minutes, I was like, okay, well, this is going to be a battle. And then, but I had to take it one day at a time. And the pounds shed for me really fast.
Incredible. One of the stories that really stands out to me that you shared with us is your summer camp story. Would you share that with the audience?
So by the time summer came around, because I started at Easter, I'd already lost 70 pounds. And then we went to a water park as a surprise for our students. And they wanted me to go out onto the water and play on these giant inflatables. And I hadn't done anything like that since I was a teenager. And I'm telling you, the excitement, the kids were saying, instructor, come on over here, let's do this. And just to know that I had the upper body strength to pull myself out of the water onto these giant toys and playing was something I never thought I'd be able to do again. I mean, my kids are teenagers. So when you think about, oh, I want to be able to play with my kids, and then, 4 or 5 years later, your kids are not little kids anymore. You're like, oh, and then you become complacent with yourself. You just say, oh, I'm going to be a video gamer. But playing now outside is so much, I look forward to it.
It's fun, right? Playing is fun.
I saved 2 weeks of leave so I could do it again this summer.
Oh, I love that.
A new tradition for you, Brian.
Yeah, I love that.
So if someone had said to you, the pre-HMR Brian, you'd be doing this much physical activity today, what would you have said to that person?
I wouldn't believe it at all. I would, honestly, I thought maybe I'll get diabetes down the road 10 years from now and have a life-changing event and lose some weight, but I'd be well into my 50s at that time. But it took my doctor throwing down my medical record and saying that she's not going to assign me medical medications for my weight loss, and that I need to do something about it. And I said, okay, then let's do it. And it was only because, I was taking offense to her at the time, but she really had my best health in mind. So really, somebody did say it to me, and I didn't believe her, but I took her up on the challenge, and here we are.
You definitely respond to challenges, Brian. I can tell,
Yes.
Yeah. Well, in fact, you've got challenge on your t-shirt. We got to talk about that.
Yes, this is an HMR 5K that we do for our clinic. And this is our trophy that we get for having the most participation. It's a banana.
I love that. Those in the audience, same thing. For those of you who have transformed your physical activity from where you were, and I know we've got a lot of stories and comments in there, think about that as like if somebody said to you before HMR that you were going to be doing the physical activity that you're doing now, what would you have told them? Make some comments there, because I think that's, it's again, an amazing appreciation for how far you've all come. All right, so just to recap, if you're just joining, we're talking to Brian and Robin about their success in HMR, and in particular about their physical activity. So we've talked about how challenging it is to be active today, and we've heard some of the different ways that each of them have started increasing or have increased their physical activity, and we're going to get into more strategies later. But let's step back now and for a minute, and Robin already mentioned this, and as did Brian, really a little bit about this, but because it is so challenging, I think it's critical to know your why, right? Like you've really got to have a reason to want to do physical activity, because it's just so easy to not do it, right? Absolutely. And it can be hard. So let's talk about your reasons. What are the reasons? What are the benefits that you want to get out of physical activity? So again, the audience, what's your 1 or 2 biggest reasons for doing PA? And then let's start, Brian, how about for you? What would you say is like 1 or 2 like big reasons why you do the physical activity now?
One of my biggest reasons for doing my physical activity is because it's encouraged my children. Well, a lot of people want to hear it's for yourself. Yes, it's for me. I'm going to be here a lot longer now. I'm telling you, I felt like behind the 418 pounds, I was counting down my days. And I was complacently okay with that. And now it's like I'm offended at myself, like the audacity. And so by me changing my lifestyle of cutting out the sugars that I had daily, because they asked us, what was in your grocery cart before? Mike and Ike's candy. I had candy all the time. And now I don't even crave it. I don't even crave bacon, which sounds like a sin. But the why is because I've seen the other side of my success, and I'm not even halfway to where I want to be, permanently, But the idea to keep doing this is that I've seen people, they have their transformations, and it's like, well, how'd you do that? And so I want to make it public, make it known. It takes a good diet and good fitness, and you in whatever small bit that you do, you just be consistent with it, and the consistency matters.
That's great. And actually, I love, it's Will, who we've had on a couple of times, very similar attitude to you. It just kind of accepted that, you know what, I've had a good life. It's going to be short and it's okay.
Yeah.
So just that resignation. And I love that you have turned the corner now and just like, no, I want to live, and I want to live a long time and be here for the kids and my wife and everybody else. Robin, how about for you? What are one or two of your key whys that you do so much?
Well, I've already mentioned the diabetes diagnosis. That was huge. But also for me, it was becoming the master of my domain and recognizing that every day I have choices. And when I made the choices that I made previously, I got the results that I got previously. I want different results, so I'm making different choices. And then the last one is actually the hardest one to say out loud. But again, it's like there's been so much growth since I've joined HMR, is I feel like I'm finally ready to literally, well, figuratively, I guess, to be seen. Because I feel like the weight for me was helping to cover me up in some way. I was trying to cover myself up. And I think for me, it was big because I had a lot of like life changes that happened all at once. I moved away from my family, my support system. I started a big job, where I was always front and center. People were looking to me for the answers. And I think, you have almost like an imposter syndrome, right? When that's going on, because it's like, everybody's coming to me and asking me questions. Do they know that I don't know? It's like that kind of thing. So I think the weight was protective for me. And when I finally said, you know what, stop hiding, you've got this. It's okay to sometimes say you don't know and you have to figure it out. Stop hiding. Like, it's stand up and own all of it, own everything that you are. And honestly, when I had that conversation with myself, you could feel almost like the ice chunks falling off. And, like Robin, the core of Robin is coming forward. So those are my whys. But that very first one that got me moving off the couch was that diabetes diagnosis. But then I saw all these, it was like a chain reaction of things that started happening after that.
And that picture of you, your current picture is illustrative of that. Your Wonder Woman pose.
That's my Wonder Woman pose. That's what I called it. I said, wait a minute, Wonder Woman pose.
Yeah. I love it.
What about you, Nancy?
So I have a few reasons. Well, I'm going to say one that's practical, and come on, you guys. I think everybody's this way. I can eat more food when I exercise and I burn calories. And you know what? I like to eat, like all of everybody else. So that's, just a practical thing. But for me, clearly emotional. It's how I deal with stress. So the physical activity helps me there, it gives me confidence. I'm just happier, just emotionally, just a much better person. And then I also want to age well. I'm getting older, or I am getting older, and I want to age well. I want to be active and sharp as long as I possibly can, hopefully well into my 90s if I can. So to me, the physical activity is an important part of that piece.
Absolutely.
So how about for you, Kate?
Yeah, for me, before HMR, let's say 35, ish pounds more. I was exhausted in my 20s. I mean, I was so tired that I would literally have to take naps, and I was not active. And I can remember those times. And now it's as if the more physical activity I do, the more energy I have. I feel like I can take on any challenge. I project myself to the world in a totally different way. So I can totally relate to what you were saying, Robin, of kind of letting your true self shine. And Brian too, these are my 3 biggest reasons.
They are
There's
so
2,
cute.
8, and 11. And just kind of made the commitment through this program that I don't want to be watching them ski from the lodge. You know, I don't want to be watching them ride bikes while I'm sitting on the porch. I want to be really doing those things with them. So they are my biggest whys to stay as active as I can. Absolutely. And I just wanted to also mention, Robin and Brian, you guys will have to go back and read the feed because you are getting so much love here. David E. even wrote, "Let that beautiful inner Robin shine bright for all to see." And there's just a lot of great reasons too about people's why for physical activity. I know Mary wrote, you know, mental health as much as physical health.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot to read here. Fabulous. And thank you for the community for continuing to add in your things. So, all right, let's switch gears. We've again confirmed the fact that PA can be challenging. It can be hard to fit it in, and you know, all the other challenges. We've also talked about, so why do PA? Why is it important? We've certainly heard some of Robin and Brian's journeys from not doing PA to where they are now doing a lot of PA. So now let's get into strategies. All right. So we want to talk about the different strategies. So those of you, again, in the community, what are the different strategies that you used either to get started with your physical activity or that you've used to increase your physical activity? So any strategies that you've used, please post them. And again, no matter where you are in your journey with physical activity, there's always a next step. There's always something else you can do. So please post, and we're going to be, Kate, you want to share some of the strategies you focus on?
Yeah, I'd love for us to have a chance to delve a little bit more deeply into 3 main strategies: short bouts, multiple bouts, and extending a bout. So let's first talk about short bouts. And short bouts can be as little as 5 minutes. I think Coach Dara once called them a PA snack.
Yes.
And, you know, when folks are surveyed, you know, what is the top reason that you're not able to do physical activity? Of course, some people might cite injuries, but a really common one starts with a T.
Time.
Yeah.
Time. That is number 1. So it's just so easy to say, you know, I don't have the 30 minutes in my schedule or the 45-minute block. So unfortunately, I just can't fit in physical activity. And then what happens is it's very easy to end up doing nothing. So Robin, I'd love to hear from you. Tell us a little bit about short bouts and how you incorporate them.
So during the day, I attend a bunch of meetings, and the meetings are a large part of what got me out of doing physical activity. But then I started to notice that, you know, certain people would get on the calls and they would, you know, start at the very beginning of the call saying, you know what, I have a hard stop at, you know, ... So, and then they would jump off the call early. And I was like, well, why can't I do that? So I started doing that so I could get exercise in, because my meetings would back up. Like one would end when another was beginning. So there literally was no time to move. So I would get on calls, and if the call started at 10 and ended at 11, I would say, I have a hard stop at 10:45. And then at 10:43, I would type in the chat, okay, everyone, I'm dropping off now because I have a hard stop in 2 minutes. And then I would just leave. I wouldn't wait for anybody to say anything. I would just drop off the call and I would get up and I would exercise. And it was so awesome. My office door would be closed. Sometimes I would even go outside and go around the corner if I had a full 15 minutes. But, if it was like 5 minutes or something, that was all I could get in, I would stretch. I would just move my body, and it made such a huge difference. So I try to do that at least 3 or 4 times a day. I have a hard stop.
And you felt so much better physically, but you were even more effective at your job.
Mentally, because you had that break. Yes, it made such a big difference. Even just getting up, walking to the refrigerator to get some water to come back so you could hydrate and just move for a moment. It made such a big difference.
That's great.
Amazing. Brian, how have you incorporated short bouts?
So with COVID, you got to go shopping a lot, apparently, and then they tell you to stay home. So the first idea is to park the furthest away you can from any entrance. And then you do those walks right there. Those are your short bouts, especially with the size I was when I started. That was really critical to get into the short 5 to 10 minutes. And then once your body gets used to it, it doesn't even bother you anymore.
Amazing.
That's great. And now you probably automatically find the furthest parking space away from a store to walk, right? I mean, it starts becoming an automatic behavior after a while.
And it's keeping yourself accountable, because one thing I always tell people is that even though we have the support, when it comes down to your PA, you're your biggest supporter, and it's you alone that has to do your PA.
Amazing. There are so many resources on the internet. Open a Google search and I can put in 5-minute stretching and I can find something, 10-minute arms. So I just strongly encourage folks, free resources online to find some opportunities for short bouts. I will say, Robin, when you were talking about the meetings at 10 with a hard stop at 10:45, essentially what you did is you scheduled that.
Yes.
So I personally have to schedule my short bouts in, because even when I have the days that I say, like, I'm going to be intentional between meetings about getting up, it's just super easy for me to not. So I have to literally set it, have the alarm go off or the calendar reminder for me to pull off the short bouts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, 5 minutes. They don't have to be long. 5,
Absolutely.
10 minutes. You just, as Robin said, you feel so much better when you come back. You're like so much more productive. And again, there are so many ways. So again, if people have strategies they use for short bouts, let's put them in the feed here, because there's so many ways that you can do them. And again, Coach Terry today was talking about the Peloton app, and that she was so excited. She's going, I was dancing to this, and I was doing this, so that, again, 10 minutes, just having a blast, having fun.
So fun.
So that's good. And sometimes it's just, as Brian, walk around the block, get out, walk around the block, come back. So a lot of things. All right. So that's short bouts. So the next one is sort of a logical follow-up to that, which is multiple bouts. And that's what it sounds like. That's doing more than one bout of physical activity in the day. So they can be longer ones or they can be shorter bouts. And, it's interesting, if you analyze your high PA days, your highest PA days, they almost always entail multiple bouts, right? It's rare to have a really high day with one really long bout. So again, this is a strategy that's easy to overlook. It's very common to get into the attitude of, oh, I did my PA today, check. It's done, right?
One and done.
I did it. It's check it off. It's off my to-do list. So that's something that, again, not a good idea. Let's see how you can seek more than one opportunity. Brian, you definitely do more than one bout a day. Can you talk about your approach?
So my approach would be for starting the day off with a walk around my neighborhood, and that's 1.2 miles. And then At lunchtime, I do 1 mile on my elliptical to make sure that my heart rate is good to go. And then I cool down by doing another walk around the neighborhood. And so that right there is 3.6 miles a day. And the calories just add up. But you got to increase your resistance too, because the more weight you lose, the more resistance you need to get the PA.
Yeah, it takes more to burn the same number of calories as you lose weight. That's one of the
A good problem to have.
It's a nice problem to have, right?
And then transitioning into phase 2 for myself, I got a personal trainer, and then that gives me another bout of PA. I get to do weightlifting there. I get to do some form of CrossFit, high intensity training there. So it gets every muscle on me activated.
So you sound like you've got some real routines built in, like your mornings sounds like it's a bit non-negotiable most of the time.
Yeah, and my employer supports it. So
That's nice.
Great.
So I have support from family, friends, and work.
Yeah.
Great. And then it sounds like the trainer, that's probably an appointment that you can't miss, more or less.
Right.
Awesome.
And Nancy, I will say the YouTubes that I will do, one is called Fitness Blenders. Like I'm following along with a person, or the Peloton app too. So I sort of think of that as my coach, even though the person doesn't see me or know me.
Yeah, no.
And also just to stress, Brian, your variety. I know that you got started with your walking, but now from the walking, elliptical, the trainer, you have lots of different strategies.
Yes, but I'm a big advocate that I don't run unless my trainer says I have to.
Yeah.
But I don't run.
You never have to run. I don't
No.
either. Robin, multiple bouts?
Yes, I do.
Well, you already explained your short bouts are multiple bouts right there, but
Right. And I never looked at it like multiple bouts, but I do that. So my HMR group laughs at me because I'm always trying to motivate everybody to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and work out with me. They're all
I'm
like,
with you.
not.
Kate's up with you.
I'm up with you.
Everybody's like,
I used
"Why?"
to be up at that time when my kids were young. I don't have to do that anymore, but
Right. It can be painful, admittedly, but my why is what gets me out of bed every morning. Because there are times that the alarm goes off and I'm like, oh my God, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. What am I thinking? And you want to stay in bed so bad. And then I always remind myself, I said, nope, when you stayed in bed, you got a certain result and you want a different result, get out of bed. So I have that conversation every morning with myself, and I get out of bed, and it's easy for me now because once I'm out of bed, I take 5 steps into my living room, turn on the TV, and I start my exercise video. So I always have it queued up the night before. So I make sure there is nothing to dissuade me from getting started. And then once, the music starts and, the coach is on and she's all high energy, I'm like, all right, I'm in here, and then I get excited. But I just got to get to that 5 minutes of getting out of bed and get to the TV, right? And then this week, I actually I was doing walking, like inside walking videos, but I just started this week doing Jillian Michaels, like 30-day shred, which I thought, like, have I lost my mind? And I'm amazed at how well it's going. I'm actually having a really good time with it. Then middle of the day, I always do at least 30 minutes during my lunch break for a walk. And I go around my neighborhood. If I'm at home or if I go to work, I go wherever I am, I take a 30-minute walk. And always at the end of the day, before, like the sun goes down, I take a walk around my neighborhood and then I come in and I do some deep stretching. That has been like life-changing for me.
mm-hmm.
I love it. Well, I mean, of course, Nancy, I love my morning bout first thing. I just feel like it's such a strong start to the day. And Brian and Robin, when both of you guys were talking about whether it be your afternoon or evening, I've really noticed that I'm much more successful with my food choices in my second part of the day when I put in that bout, like heading into the evening. It's really reinforcing of my food choices too.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the benefits of the multiple bouts is because, when you're doing the physical activity, I think it reinforces also doing healthy behaviors or healthy eating, right? I mean, it just kind of
Totally
brings it back to mind. Well, and I mean, I'm in the same camp all of you. I'm morning. I try to get something in during work if I can. And then I love after work. It's like time to kind of just relax and enjoy. I have a couple days that I go to a class. But otherwise it's like, unless something's really going on, I love that end of day exercise as
So
well.
great. Yes.
So I think we've got all proponents for multiple bouts here.
Yes.
Yep.
And another one that I wanted to emphasize, which just seems like such an easy win, is extending a bout. You are already dressed, perhaps in the sneakers, you're out there. Is there an opportunity to do 5 more minutes? Is there an opportunity to do another block, another half mile? Sort of this one, like the multiple bouts too, I typically have to schedule Saturday and Sunday. I always have an extended bout of physical activity. What about you, Robin? When do you fit in the longer bouts?
I typically do the longer bouts in the middle of the day. I go walking with my EA, and he and I do like kind of community surveys. So we take one direction, we pick the direction we're going to go in, and we always go just about like another 10 minutes further than we did the last time we went in that direction, just kind of discovering different neighborhoods and discovering, these are all neighborhoods that we've driven through multiple times, but it is just different when you see it. When you're walking, you get a different perspective. So we've been learning all these different things about our area. And every time we pick a different direction, we just go a little bit further. And that's been like really enjoyable because neither one of us is like pressed to get back to get to like the next meeting. We just take our time. And if we're late, we're late.
I want your job, Robin. Nobody.
No.
But I do kind of feel like it's easy to kind of just assume the route is the route.
The route is the route.
The stop sign is the end and the turn back. And then you do something a little different and realize that, you know, it's easy to put limits on ourselves that don't have to necessarily be present. I love that.
Yep.
Ryan, any examples?
One of my examples would be the 5K that we did. You know, it was promoted that we were going to walk it, and I'm a big advocate of walking, but I want to point out a lot of times you need an accountability partner, such as Robin says about her EA. For myself, it's my wife. So she went out there, Thanksgiving morning, and she's like, you come this far, I'm proud of you. And I'm like, yes. And she goes, all right, now let's run. And having that accountability of running and, you know, keeping myself going the extra mile there, it really sets me up to where I can do a whole lot more than I ever thought I could.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you push yourself, you get challenged, and Robin, even when you were saying like you took on this new video, and sometimes it's like, oh, I really can do more than I thought I could do. Or, you know, sometimes it takes pushing yourself to realize that. That's a great story. I noticed quickly, there was a question for someone said, what are the ideas if you're not a walker? So anything, certainly people should comment. Any suggestions for you guys, Brian?
For our clinic, we have a few people that are not walkers, and there are, like, I specifically wanted to stay in my class the longest I could so I could see a person go from using a walker, and by the time I left phase 1, he was using a cane. But we promoted doing desk exercises from sitting in your chair.
Yes.
And those work. I've done them. I do them because I work from home. So it's part of my everyday routine.
Yeah, I think I will speak up for those. Anytime I've been injured where I haven't been able to be on my feet, I've turned to chair aerobics. And again, YouTube or somewhere you can get chair workouts. And I'll tell you, you can get some good workouts, as you said. Silver sneakers is one. Some of it's fun, kind of dancing in the chair in a way, but you know, there's definitely, that's one option. I think of a bike as another option if you're not a walker, either a regular bike or an indoor bike. Any other thoughts, you guys?
If folks have access to a pool, I go 2 to 3 days a week, and what's so fascinating to me is there's like 8 lanes in the pool, and no 2 lane are people doing the same thing. So One person is doing like water stretching. Another person has a belt on, is doing water jogging. Some people might be doing, breaststroke, crawl, but it just, takes the resistance off and is just amazing exercise. So for folks who can, strongly encourage getting in the pool.
Great.
And what came to mind for me with that question was yoga. That was the first thing that popped in my mind.
Very good.
Clearly not like, like Ashtanga yoga or something like that, but just like a hatha that's kind of nice and relaxing, and it gets your body, you do burn a lot of calories with yoga. I think a lot of people are surprised by that. You burn a lot of calories, but I think it just helps to prepare your body for like, more later. But I love yoga.
That's great. And I mean, there are, right along with that, there's bar, there's Pilates. So those are all very good for your core, for your balance, for your flexibility, for your peace of mind, right?
Yes.
So, all right, hopefully we've given some ideas there. Anything else that we want to say? We've covered a lot here. Got a lot of variety.
2 other quick points I wanted to make.
Yeah.
It was really a shift when I started HMR, because before I would say, am I going to do physical activity today? And it would be a no. Instead, every single day I say, how will I do physical activity? It is literally a check that it's going to happen. One. And I shared this example with you, Nancy. I'm a participant in Coach Nancy's weekly class, and I'm not able to plug in every food that I'm going to have for a day or for the week, but I do, when I'm in the class, jot down a PA plan for each day, a plan A, a plan B, multiple bouts. So I really use my calendar to do that, and strongly encourage people to try.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say is, as you said, have a backup plan. I know people, again, I love to be outside. I love doing activity outside. So if it's a bad, like if it's a bad weather day or whatever, they don't do PA. So it's important to have options, both, and again, we've been saying that there's great videos that you can watch on television, or maybe you have a machine at home, but even if you don't, there's a lot of things that you can do. So I think it's important to have options both in and outdoors.
Can I add to that too? I think you
Absolutely.
need to do what you like.
Yes.
Like, it can't, I think if exercise feels like a task, and, a lot of times it does feel like a task, even when you love it, it can feel like a task. But if it feels like a task that you really just don't want to do, then you're just, you're going to be less inclined to do it. But
Absolutely.
I actually love to walk and love to be outside. So, anytime somebody says to me, let's go for a walk, I'm like, let's go. I love to do that. But if that's not like something that you like to do, then like, do you like to ride bikes? Because and actually it's like, do you like to ride bikes outside? Do you just like to be in nature? Because maybe it's something else. Maybe you want to be in a park and exercise in a park or something. But I think it's like you got to figure out like what feels good to you, because like when it feels good, you love it and you're looking forward to doing it again the next day. So I love going for walks, and I look forward to that every day. It's like that mental clarity, that expansion of your lungs. I just feel so invigorated after I do that.
Absolutely. And some people may be into sports, like Mary mentioned on the comment that she's joined pickleball, which has become such a popular sport. So, maybe pickleball, maybe tennis, golf, all kinds of sports. Is it playing? Again, as Brian said, playing can be fun way to get exercise in as well. All right. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here. And I think it's about time to shut us down here. And as we wrap up, huge thanks to both of you. You have just been so inspiring. It's so wonderful to have heard your stories, to hear your experiences. I'm sure you have given a lot of hope and encouragement to people here tonight. And again, make sure you go back and read comments after we get done here. And for those of you in the audience, we really hope, first of all, that this conversation has given you some ideas, something different than you've done so far, so that you can continue your physical activity journey, no matter where you are in it at this point. And as always, really thank you for all of the input that you had in the conversations that we can go back and read after this event. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks. We're sort of on an every other week cycle right now. So we hope to see you then. So good night, everybody.
Have a good
Take
evening,
care.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.